If intelligence automatically produced good money choices, every valedictorian would retire early and every PhD would be financially serene. That's not what we see. Some of the most educated, analytically gifted people struggle with debt, invest late or badly, get trapped by lifestyle costs, or carry stress that contradicts their resumes. This isn't because they lack ability. It's because the very traits that make them excellent at complex thinking can sabotage personal finance, which rewards boring consistency more than brilliant insight. Today, we'll explore why smart people make poor financial decisions and how to rewrite the script with systems that harness intellect without letting it drive you into a ditch. No bullet points, just a clear, long walk through the psychology, the traps, the real-life stories, and a practical choreography you can run while tired. Start with a disarming truth: money is less like a chess problem and more like brushing your teeth. It's not a contest you win with a clever move, it's a hygiene practice you keep so time can do compounding's quiet work. Intelligent people are trained to seek novelty, to solve hard problems, to earn applause for elegant solutions. A portfolio and a household budget do not clap. They reward low drama, punctuality, and patience. When very smart people meet a domain that refuses to validate genius, they often try to extract validation anyway, with complexity, timing, exotic products, or high-effort optimizations that quietly underperform the plain, repeatable alternative. The first mistake isn't arrogance, it's mismatch. You're using a performance mindset where a maintenance mindset wins. Overconfidence arrives next, dressed as competence. If you excel in one arena, your brain will let you borrow that confidence in another without asking permission. The surgeon who navigates risk daily assumes she can judge market risk with similar accuracy. The software architect who models uncertainty professionally believes he can model it in public markets where incentives and information are different. This expertise transfer is seductive and expensive. Markets don't pay you for analysis in isolation. They pay you for holding productive assets through weather you cannot predict. If your confidence pulls you into concentrated bets, frequent trading, or strategies that look clever and feel necessary, you are probably paying a tuition you didn't intend to pay. Then there's complexity bias, the tendency to prefer intricate solutions because they feel appropriate to our intelligence. A total market index fund with a low expense ratio is almost offensively simple. Pair it with a plain bond fund calibrated to sleep, rebalance twice a year, automate contributions, and you will beat most complex portfolios over decades, with less effort, tax drag, and decision fatigue. But to a smart mind, that plan can feel like underachievement. So you add factors, options, sector tilts, smart beta, alternative assets and expensive wrappers, frequent reallocations, and clever tax games that eventually break discipline. The drag isn't visible on any given Tuesday, but the fees and frictions compound against you the same way returns would have compounded for you. Analysis paralysis also taxes intelligent people more than they admit. When you can see 10 ways to proceed and calculate 15 risks for each, the easiest move is often no move. Cash piles up in low-yield accounts until I'm ready. Research becomes an identity instead of a step. Meanwhile, inflation quietly takes a toll and market returns pass you by. Perfectionism frames inaction as prudence. It's not. It's a decision to accept the worst long-term odds because the short-term discomfort of an imperfect plan felt intolerable. The cure is to replace the right plan with the right rhythm. Small, automatic contributions that happen on a schedule you'll keep while you keep learning in public. Smart people are also unusually good at explaining themselves to themselves. Confirmation bias and narrative fallacy get PhDs. If a trade goes well, you tell a story about your model. If it fails, you update the story to preserve your identity. Over time, you end up with a biography of brilliance interrupted by bad luck, and you learn nothing structural from the losses. Boring investors, often the ones too busy to narrate, simply keep buying, and their lack of story becomes a performance edge. The market doesn't grade for eloquence, it grades for behavior under stress. Loss aversion is universal, but intelligence can amplify it into elegance. You will generate very sophisticated reasons to avoid ordinary volatility. Macro theses backed by reading, policy predictions dressed in logic, hedging strategies that cost more than they save. You forget the base rate. Diversified stocks are lumpy, bond yields change, and yet broad ownership of productive businesses held cheaply for decades has historically rewarded patience. If you mistake discomfort for danger and build elaborate structures to avoid it, you pay a premium for calm that a sleep fund and the right allocation could have provided at a fraction of the cost. There's also the optimization trap. Highly analytical people make everything a spreadsheet competition. You search for the maximal savings rate, the exact asset allocation, the tax-minimized location of every dollar, the perfect point strategy, the flight with one fewer connection that saves 19 euros. Optimization can be a joy. It can also become a tax on your life. The point of personal finance is not to die with the best spreadsheet. It's to fund a life you recognize. The optimal plan is the one you will keep when you're tired, bored, busy, or grieving. That plan usually has fewer levers, larger margins, and rituals instead of heroism. Lifestyle expansion hides behind accomplishment. Smart people are rewarded with promotions, credentials, and social circles that normalize expensive defaults. Of course you drive a new car. Of course you moved to the bigger house. Of course you upgraded that kitchen. The purchases are framed as tools for excellence or necessities for status. In reality, they are often costumes. You rationalize them with cleverness, and suddenly your fixed costs soar. High salary meets high burn rate, and the gap that was supposed to be your compounding engine becomes a trickle. The danger isn't a single splurge, it's distance disguised as a deal, a second car you don't need, a mortgage that auditions for admiration, and subscriptions you would never buy again if you had to say the price out loud today. Intelligent people also underestimate the cost of attention. Your brain wants stimulation. The internet will happily sell it to you with ads that convert curiosity into checkout. High-status jobs often generate stress that seeks relief at retail speed. Delivery at midnight, a weekend escape priced for photographs, gadgets that promise efficiency while stealing time to configure and maintain. The invoice for stimulation is not just money, it's the erosion of the quiet routines, home cooking, walking, sleep, and paperwork that make households cheap and resilient. Professional success can mask paperwork neglect. Physicians, academics, engineers, founders, brilliant in their domains, regularly forget beneficiary updates, allow orphan accounts to drift, lose passwords, skip wills and health directives, and leave partners in the dark. These omissions cost real money in taxes, fees, and chaos. They also create concentration risk. Too much employer stock, too much one company exposure in options, too little liquidity because the identity of "I am valuable here" eclipsed the arithmetic of "I should diversify out of here." Taxes are another place where intelligence wanders into overconfidence. You can model plenty. You cannot outmodel policy changes, bracket cliffs, and the simple truth that paying some taxes on purpose often improves outcomes. Smart earners defer too long, ignore Roth conversions when their earnings temporarily dip, trigger punitive phase-outs because they optimized in the wrong order, or sell great assets to save small taxes today and thereby generate larger taxes tomorrow. The antidote is humility with a calendar, a yearly projection, simple rules for withdrawal order, and a willingness to pay small taxes to avoid large ones. There's a social layer many smart people miss. Your peer group silently sets your burn rate. A group whose default hang is a pricey dinner will bill you into submission even if you're good with money. If your friends audition for each other with gear and weekends that require financing, you will end up performing even if you know better. Intelligence won't save you from the urge to belong, only design will. Becoming the friend who proposes potlucks, matinees, park mornings, board game nights, and split menu evenings where you cook mains and eat dessert out. When joy becomes repeatable and cheap, your plan becomes livable and long-lasting. Let's leave theory and walk into rooms where intelligence meets money in ways that tell the truth. A brilliant physician in her mid-30s earns well and spends hard to anesthetize stress. The car is new because safety, the house is big because resale, the travel is constant because we need to decompress, and the late fees are normal because I'm slammed. She invests only when she feels ready, which is never, and her portfolio is a patchwork of expensive funds someone sold her once. Her IQ isn't the problem, her calendar is. We installed Rails. Income lands in a staging account with no card. Week 1 bills draft from a bills-only account. Day after payday, pockets refill the predictable irregulars: tires and service, co-pays and meds, gifts, school or kid activities, pet care, travel once a year, and the winter energy spike. Friday, a weekly card refills with a 7-day number that carries groceries and ordinary life. On payday, a savings transfer lands first. Once the foundation is steady, an investing drip buys a broad, low-cost fund on the same date every month. She moved her charger out of the bedroom, wrote 2 10-minute dinners on a freezer whiteboard, and added a joy line for a monthly matinee. 6 months later, late fees were fossils, delivery spend halved, and investing finally became behavior instead of intention. Her intelligence started paying dividends because it was applied to keeping the rails steady, not to inventing exceptions. An engineer in his 40s loves puzzles and options. He trades around earnings because he can model them, runs 6 factor tilts because the backtests look glorious, and rebalances whenever boredom visits. He's not losing his shirt, he's losing the compounding he could have had with a simpler plan. We wrote an investing policy he could obey while tired. Own the global stock market cheaply, pair it with bonds that match sleep, rebalance on his birthday and half-birthday, never stop dollar-cost averaging, and ignore screens except on those 2 dates. We placed income-heavy holdings where taxes hurt less and left the rest alone. He fenced curiosity to a tiny quarterly sandbox so he could play without wrecking discipline. 2 years later, his portfolio looked like a metronome instead of a lie detector. The itch didn't disappear, it got a sandbox. The compounding returned to his main accounts. A founder sold a company and believed his insight transferred easily to markets. He concentrated half his liquid wealth in a sector he knew, levered a bit because rates were low, and then watched volatility do what volatility does. It wasn't a wipeout, but it was a bruise that would have been a fracture but for luck. We reframed. The sale proceeds buy freedom. The portfolio preserves it. He separated identity from allocation. Annuitized a slice to cover his family's floor alongside social benefits and a paid-off home, and invested the rest in boring global ownership at low cost. The itch to build returned to what loves him back, operating companies he controls with money he can afford to lose. Intelligence found its proper domain. The portfolio went back to being a sleep tool. Now let's replace traps with practices that smart people can respect because they're rigorous where it matters and humble where the world refuses to be predicted. The first practice is choreography over heroics. Route income into a staging account with no card attached. In week 1, a bills-only account drafts non-negotiables: housing, utilities, essential insurance, transport, minimum payments, so memory doesn't run the show. The day after payday, small drips refill labeled pockets for predictable irregulars: tires and service, co-pays and meds, gifts, school or kid activities, pet care, travel, and the winter energy spike. Every Friday, a weekly card refills with a 7-day number that carries groceries and ordinary life, so drift lasts days rather than months. On payday, a savings transfer lands first. Once the foundation is steady, an investing drip buys a broad, low-cost fund on the same date every cycle. Add a small joy line and generosity line so the plan is humane and sustainable. This is a lab experiment you can respect: constant inputs, observable outputs, minimal confounders. The second practice is a written policy that replaces mood. In a note on your phone, describe what you own, when you add to it, how you rebalance, how you'll withdraw later, and what you won't do. State your maximum concentration in any position. State your response to a market drop of 20, 30, or 40%. State your rules for employer stock and options. State your plan for conversions when your income dips. State when you'll harvest losses and when you'll ignore taxes to protect discipline. This one paragraph will outperform any forecast you can generate because it prevents your brain from improvising under cortisol. The third practice is base rate thinking over inside view storytelling. Ask what happens most of the time to people who do the thing you're considering. Most attempts to time markets underperform simple buy and hold of broad low-cost funds once you include taxes and fees. Most concentrated positions feel brilliant until they feel terrifying. Most debt at 20% interest wins against you. Most cash beyond a few months lose to inflation. Most annuity riders cost more than they deliver. Most fee stacks eat more than their marketing admits. Base rates won't make you a legend, they will make you free. The fourth practice is proximity over square footage and logistics over lifestyle theater. Intelligent people rationalize addresses. You know how to build a spreadsheet that makes a long commute look cheap. That spreadsheet doesn't include the invoice your calendar sends for fuel, tires, tolls, second car payments, parking, daycare coordination invented by distance, and exhaustion that buys delivery. A home near life makes your week cheap by design. A large house far away makes your week expensive by default. The smart financial move is the boring one. Buy or rent proximity you will use every day instead of space you will clean once a week and pay for always.
The fifth practice is a quarterly rebuy ritual. Read every repeating charge out loud on the first Friday of January, April, July, and October. Would you buy this again today at this price? Clean yeses stay. Maybes die. Indecisions pause for a season while the money routes to your sleep fund. Annual billing becomes a reward for tools you would happily buy 12 times, not a trick that lets a mediocre service live rent-free in your life. This is the Bayesian update your subscriptions have been avoiding. The sixth practice is receipts at work. Once a week, ship one outcome and attach a number. Minutes saved, errors prevented, revenue added, refunds reduced. Send a 3-line Monday note. Keep a running file. When you negotiate, you won't be negotiating your worth. You'll be negotiating a split of value you already created. Raises compound more powerfully than coupons. Your intelligence belongs here, where it turns into money you can automate toward freedom. The seventh practice is a 5-line Friday scoreboard. Water, a chair, and 5 lines in a notes app. Sleep fund months on hand. Savings rate year to date. Debt reduced since last month. Investing contributions since January 1, and late fees avoided this quarter. If 1 is 0, write 0. No moralizing. Visibility ends excuses and reveals where a small tweak will matter. Your brain wants a dashboard. Give it one that measures what compounds. The eighth practice is paperwork competence. Update beneficiaries, consolidate orphan accounts, use a password manager with recovery codes, execute a will and health directives, and write a 1-page letter of instructions that says where things live and who to call. Smart people procrastinate here because there's no applause. Do it for the person who would otherwise have to run a scavenger hunt while worried about you. Do it because taxes and fees eat the households of the disorganized. The ninth practice is insurance humility. Decline microinsurance and extended warranties for cheap items. Self-insure with a repairs and replacements pocket that refills automatically. Buy the few policies that prevent ruin. Health coverage that fits your system, disability income while you earn, adequate liability, and term life while someone depends on your paycheck. Match deductibles to your sleep fund. Insurance is where you rent stability so your compounding can continue after a single bad week. This is not paranoia, it's engineering. The 10th practice is attention design. Move your phone charger out of the bedroom, so mornings belong to water, light, and a 2-minute glance that your transfers ran, not to an app that sells you adrenaline and shoes. Remove trading and shopping apps from your home screen. Turn off push notifications that aren't humans. Keep a want list that must sit for a month before you buy. Often the desire will evaporate without costing you anything. A brain that's not being sold to every 6 minutes will make saner money choices than a brain fending off a casino in its pocket. If you share a life, intelligent money becomes a team sport. The richest partnerships are not the ones where one person performs genius. They are the ones where a simple method is shared. Agree to a small, no-questions amount for each adult, so autonomy lives inside the plan. Use the same Friday scoreboard. Practice 2 scripts to retire expensive auditions. We're on a saving sprint. Can we do a matinee and a walk? And we have a quiet period for upgrades. Ask us again in the spring. Connection quality replaces status as a default. Money fights turn into method adjustments. What about advisors? Very smart people alternate between doing everything themselves and outsourcing all judgment. The grown-up stance is selective collaboration. Hire fee-only, fiduciary professionals for what they're measurably good at: tax projections, estate planning, complex equity compensation, cross-border issues, and keep investment management simple enough that you don't need to buy cleverness to be free. Use experts the way you use carpenters, for the parts that require tools and practice you don't have, not for the parts that require you to show up every Friday and keep promises. There's a health chapter because tired brains get wealthy slowly. Sleep deletion makes you impulsive. Movement improves mood and decision quality. Food logistics delete late-night delivery emergencies. Put the glass by your phone at night. Drink it before you touch a screen. Build 2 dinners you can cook in 10 minutes and a no-cook kit for bad days. Schedule preventive appointments like rent. Intelligent people sometimes treat body care as optional because brains pay the bills. Brains are housed in bodies. The invoice arrives either way. Finally, a ritual to start tonight that doesn't need a new personality, just a pen and 15 minutes. Rename 2 accounts in your banking app, so tired you can't forget what they do. Staging, rails and bills only. Schedule 4 automatic moves for your next payday. Week 1 drafts for essentials from bills only. Day after payday drips to tires and service, copays and meds, gifts, school or kid activities, pet care, travel and winter energy. A Friday refill for your weekly card, and a payday savings transfer that feeds your sleep fund before feelings wake up. If your foundation is steady, add a small investing drip to a broad, low-cost index on the same day. Put a whiteboard on your freezer and write 2 10-minute dinners you'll actually cook this week. Move your phone charger out of the bedroom. Create a scoreboard note with the 5 lines you'll update this Friday. Text one friend and put a cheap joy on the calendar this weekend. Then stop. Let the rails run for 4 Fridays before you adjust anything. The boredom you feel is compounding beginning to work. 6 months from now, intelligence will still be intelligence. The difference is that it will be harnessed instead of unchained. Your bills will draft. Your pockets will fund the surprises that used to become debt. Your weekly card will keep drift cheap. Your savings and investing will happen when you're asleep or in a meeting. Your portfolio will look like a metronome instead of a lie detector. Your address will serve your week. Your phone will stop selling you urgency. Your work receipts will raise your price. Your paperwork will protect your people. Your joy will be scheduled instead of purchased in a panic. You won't feel like a genius. You'll feel like a person whose money keeps promises. That feeling is what the brightest people often miss while they're trying to be impressive. Here's the ending nobody puts on a diploma. You do not have to outsmart markets, friends, or yourself to become wealthy. You have to out-discipline your impulses with designs that run when you're human. Intelligence is a tool, not an identity. Aim it where it compounds. Habits, systems, and relationships that lower your burn and raise your surplus. And redirect the rest of your energy into work and play that you can love for a long time. Money won't applaud. It will do something better. It will quietly free the hours you've been selling so you can spend them on people and projects that won't ask for a receipt.